stream. I'll get this muted. Start in 3, 2, 1. Oh crap, wrong button. Welcome everybody to Geekvice episode 235, proving anything with enough vice can become a virtue. Proving any vice with enough geek can become a virtue. Gosh, you know what? We have done this for how many episodes, and I was on a roll, and this is the first time I wasn't looking at the notes when I read it, and completely screwed it up. So, hey, we'll just roll with it. It's Geekvice. You know, it's what we do. My name's Morph. That man's Kip. Good evening, Kip.
Good evening.
We're getting back into this after screwing it up for so long. Oh.
Well, why change now?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if we don't have technical difficulties or not running late or, as I noticed in the show notes, can't spell aqua.
Yeah, I was going to say something to you about it. I thought I'd let it go.
Just noticed that. Like, what the heck is going on? Guys, I am scatterbrained. Went out to dinner tonight with my parents, and then went costume shopping for Halloween for the boys, which
I
was
thought for your parents.
No, not for them. We let them go home, and we just shopped with the boys. But it was really kind of interesting. So we have Conley, my youngest one, is going to be Black Panther, and
Nice.
he's going to be the, like, not the first Black Panther from the movie, but the second one. So like the one that's got the more purple lines and looks a little cooler. So
right.
yeah, he's got that costume, and then Reese, my oldest one, bless his soul, he wanted to be Nightcrawler. He really wanted to be Nightcrawler from the X-Men, but you can't really get those costumes. They're not like readily available. We'd have to order it, and it would not. It's like 2 months shipping time. So that wasn't really going to work. And normally we try to make their costumes, but we just have not had time this year. And we were kind of late in planning for it. So he found a costume today. He's going to be a blue dragon, which is actually really cool looking costume. So there will definitely be some pictures here probably later this week because they have a costume party at their school. Since they can't wear costumes during school, they have like a carnival type thing that the teachers put on after school this Thursday, and the kids get to wear their costumes. So
they don't get to wear them at school?
Yeah, not during the day. And I think part of that is just because, like, trying to get the kids in and out of costumes, or like trying to, costumes now are so elaborate, and also you never know what kids are going to be wearing or trying to bring to school. And I think they would try to avoid the idea that kids are going to be bringing weapons to school. So I think that's part of it.
Man, it's just so much different than when we were kids.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I remember like wearing costumes to school, like you're in the costume all day, and then like in the afternoons you had your party in your classroom, and then like even my elementary school, we would do like a costume parade where all the all the
Yeah.
people in costumes would be walking through the hallways, and you could, if you weren't wearing a costume or didn't want to participate, you could just go sit outside in the hallway and watch all the people wearing costumes walk by and gawk at them. But
Yeah. Yeah. I went to elementary school in Vegas, and they would have um, an assembly, and all the kids who weren't in costume would sit in the middle of the big assembly room we had, and then all the kids who wore a costume basically did like a parade around the room, and then ended up on stage, and then they handed out prizes for the best costumes and stuff like that.
oh, that's cool. Yeah, we didn't have prizes for costumes, but I mean, I remember times as a kid, I was the Flash one time, and I remember I was a dragon, but my mom made the costume, and that was kind of cheesy, but I was a kid, so it didn't really matter. Um, and then I think one of my favorite ones was I was Robin Hood. This was about the time of Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, and I was I actually made my own bow. Found like a cut down a tree branch. It was still green and flexible, and tied string to it, and um, like made a quiver. Made fake arrows and stuck them in the quiver. That was the one that I felt like it was the best looking one, the most accurate one. How about that? The most accurate.
Okay.
Probably wasn't very good looking because I think I was only in like fourth or fifth grade at the time, um, but yeah. And then shortly after that, that's when I stopped wearing costumes and I just dressed all in black and hung from the roof and scared people as they walked up to the house. So,
I one year I wore a dress and a wig and full face of makeup.
oh, nice.
I was like first or second grade, and it's Vegas, so it's hot. And somewhere during the day, the wig just got way too hot to wear. So I took the wig off, and so my hair is all standing on end, and it's all greasy and sweaty. And of course, I've been rubbing my face all day. You know the scene in the Batman movie where the Joker's dressed like a nurse?
Yes.
I probably looked like that
That's awesome.
because I had lipstick just smeared across my face, and yeah, I was amazing. And then when it came time to judge the costume, I had to put the wig back on. The makeup is a mess, and the principal was telling what everybody's costumes as they were as they went across. He said I was the Bride of Frankenstein. I was just supposed to be a girl.
Oh, that is great. That is great. Yeah. So, we got Halloween coming up, and I'm sure we're gonna be talking more about Halloween stuff. I was thinking, I also want to. At some point, we have to talk about our favorite Halloween candy because now Facebook, everybody bashes my favorite Halloween candy, so that you can't get any other time of the year except Halloween. So I'm sure you guys can guess what that is, but we'll talk about that more later. We'll get into that later.
All right, I look forward to that conversation.
So
because my favorite is stuff a lot of people screw their nose up at. So
okay.
We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, we're definitely. That's definitely gonna have to be an upcoming episode. So let's see. You've watched a movie. I watched a couple trailers that it came out over this last week. I also have a video game that came out this week that I really want to buy, and I haven't done it yet, but it's very possible that it's going to happen here soon. It's Assassin's Creed Odyssey. That game looks amazing. I have a computer that can actually run it, and I really kind of want to buy it. I'm a huge fan of Greek and Roman mythology anyway, and now they have an Assassin's Creed game that takes place during that time period. I just I want to see what kind of lore they build into the the Assassin's Creed game with Greek and Roman mythology. I think that would be really cool. So, and it's the game
Sounds
is
cool.
the game looks completely different from the Assassin's Creed games I have played the most of. Um, Black Flag is the last one that I've played all the way through. I have Assassin's Creed Syndicate and have started it. Now that I have the new computer, I can play that game. I bought it a long time ago, or I think I got it maybe on a Humble Bundle or something, but my laptop wouldn't run it. It wasn't the laptop couldn't handle it. Well, I guess I played Assassin's Creed Rogue too. I did that one. So I've I've played some games, but from what I've heard, Origins, Assassin's Creed Origin, which is the previous game, and then Odyssey that just came out, those two are completely different in their gameplay and the way they're organized. So I really kind of want to try it out. So I might be buying my first full price game in a few years, which will be interesting,
Yeah, it's a brave new world.
right? Yeah. Um, so I have that, but then the other thing that I wanted to talk about before we get into the movies is uh, I actually got to play a board game. Usually it's Kip that gets to talk about board games because he plays every week. Uh, this weekend, I actually got to play a game, and my kids wanted to play it. They actually asked me because it was one of the few Saturdays since I don't know if any of you are from the Kansas City area, but we've been in a monsoon over the last weekend, and like everything outdoors really got canceled on Saturday. So
No doubt.
um, we didn't have to go anywhere because all that stuff was canceled, and we got to play the Legends of Drizzt board game. And I've talked about this game before, and the game is a lot of fun. If you like Dungeons and Dragons and you like the Legends of Drizzt stories, the Forgotten Realm type stuff, definitely recommend it. But the big reason I wanted to talk about this was Reese and I have started reading the Legends of Drizzt books. The stories by R.A. Salvatore. We're starting with The Crystal Shard right now, which is one of his earlier books, and kind of introduces Wolfgar and Bruner and Drizzt and Katie Bree before she becomes the archer, Regis, and all of these characters are in the Legends of Drizzt board game, and even some of the bad guys that they run across are from that book, and some of the like in the Crystal Shard is actually where Drizzt finds his sword, his classic scimitar, one of his powerful scimitars that is actually in the board game. That's one of your weapons in the board game, and so it was kind of fun watching his eyes light up as we start reading off these things like, oh yeah, you get this and you get this, and he's like, oh, I remember that from the book, and it was just like it's really kind of cool how this thing has kind of progressed. So yeah,
That is outstanding.
yeah, it's a lot of fun. I really enjoy it, and so it it's a fun game. It's I don't know. It's just a lot of fun. It takes a little while to play. It's not a short play time, and it's not a short setup time either. That was kind of the hardest part because we hadn't played in so long. I had to try to remember how to set the game up again. But it was fun. We got to play through one of the adventures. We actually lost. We didn't win, so that happens. But we made it to the final boss battle, and I played as Katie Bree, and I'm an archer, and I got too close to the bad guys. Not on purpose, just I couldn't get away and died twice. So we ran out of healing surges, and there was no saving me.
I haven't played that game in a long time.
I know because I've had your copy for a long time.
Well, yeah, even before that, I hadn't played it in a while.
But
what I liked about that game was you could also just, if you had nobody to play with, you could also just break the game out and play. This
yes,
was one of the things I liked about that game.
yeah, it's a really good game, and it's really fun, and it kind of fills the niche of, wanting to be able to play like Dungeons and Dragons, but not having enough people or time to run a whole, set up the whole thing.
Right.
This kind of fills that niche, and I had a lot of fun playing it. And we played it right before the Chiefs game, so I was actually kind of glad we lost because we needed to wrap it up so I could turn on the Chiefs game. but um, but yeah, I'm excited for when we have a little bit more time where we can actually sit down and play a little bit more. Maybe we'll start with the first adventure instead of the fourth adventure. Maybe we'll be able to make it actually be able to
Yeah,
win. So
perhaps. That's a game that if you are into painting minis, that alone would keep you busy without even gameplay.
oh yeah, there's a lot of them in that one.
Yeah, has a really cool great big dragon, and
Oh yeah,
yeah, it's got good stuff.
the kids just wanted to fight the dragon, and I just looked at them and I go, "Do you know? Like no, like no, we'd be dead in seconds. Um, like no,
Who
they're
was your final boss?
we fought Yokel, the I think it's one of the Drow Queen things, the incarnations of Lolth.
Oh, okay.
So one of the Drow denizen type uh, gods. But it was it. But the thing was with that on that adventure, we were supposed to be like clearing out the mines of Mithril Hall, and you come across this glyph. In the cavern tiles, you get this glyph, and then it says you uh, put a cavern tile on each of the pieces, open edges of your map, basically. So you add all that out there, and then it says each person goes around and draws a monster and puts that on the tile next to the glyph on the ground and on the glyph tile. And so we ended up with three minions basically, and then the main bad guy that's shown up, and you're just like, uh, we just got ambushed hard and we were not
Yeah.
prepared. Like we we might have if we would have been smart, we would have kind of bunched up a little bit more and maybe like kind of explored more as a group and less spread out. So, we didn't have some of the people in place to really be able to help us the way we
You
needed to.
split the party. You never split the
Yeah,
party.
but it was the kids and they wanted to explore and they wanted to be like, oh, I want to explore instead of drawing an encounter card. I'm like, guys, it's okay. Encounter cards are not all that bad. I also made the mistake. I didn't go through the cards, so like your your encounter cards and your monster cards and your um, treasure cards, they all have rankings on them. So it's like it starts at from 1 to 100. Well, to play the easy version of the game, you only use cards 1 through 50 of each of those sets, and then
Yeah.
you use the other 50 if you want to go to the advanced level. I didn't want to go through and sort out the cards, so we just left them all in there. We ran into a couple of traps that just knocked us flat a couple times, so we're like, and I even got to the point where it's like, oh, this encounter card, oh, it's this trap. I don't want to try to deal with that. Let's just do a different one. It's like so. Um, Ran into some problems there, but that was that was lack of taking the effort to set it up. And for the next time, I think I actually want to get open the box and I'll actually sort all those out so that you have piles of of 1 to 50, and then you have your piles of your 51 to 100, so you don't have to go through and count them out, sort them out for a new gameplay. It'll make it easier for the next time. But
Pro tip. Don't be lazy on setup.
Yes. Don't try to cut corners on setup and think that you'll be okay. You're just going to get your ass beat. So, yeah, so that was my board game time. It was a lot of fun. I really liked it. I recommend it. Go play Legends of Drizzt. Go read the books because the books are really good if you haven't read them. I love those books. Some of my
It
favorites.
sounds like it ties the board game together for you.
They do. They absolutely do. All right, so tell me about Venom because you went and saw Venom and the critics hated Venom.
They did. I did a cardinal sin, something that I tell people not to do, but I did it anyway. I only read the headlines of the reviews.
Ooh.
So all you kids out there, no matter what the news story is, don't just read the headline and think you got the story. So anyway, I only read the headlines, and of course they all alluded to panning of the movie. So me being me and seeing the trailers of Venom and everything, I was not letting that detour me.
Good.
So we went and saw Venom, and I am happy to report the headlines of the critics' stories were wrong. This is actually a pretty good movie. It's a little slow in the beginning. You kind of get to know Eddie Brock a little bit, but more of a everything happens to him that day kind of scenario than just getting to know Eddie over a stretch of time.
Gotcha.
So you get to learn that he's a rogue type reporter, and you get to learn what happens with him and his girlfriend, and they all seem to take place the same day. So, but I think they just had so much ground to cover that they just did it that way, which was fine. If you can get through a little bit of slow moving at the beginning of the movie, it really takes off when Venom gets inside Eddie Brock.
Yeah.
Then the movie is gold. The banter between Venom and Eddie is phenomenal.
Well,
it's funny as hell.
That was one of the pluses that I heard from a lot of critics that they were like that Eddie Brock, I forgot, Tom Hardy was just incredible, and that he was basically the most amazing part of the entire movie. So, which is good because that's your main character.
Yeah, he's supposed to be.
Yeah.
So, but it's called Venom, and if you say watch the trailers without sound, you would not guess that there's anything funny in this movie whatsoever. It's a dark looking movie, right?
Right.
Based on a fairly dark character.
Yeah.
It's funny. Like I said, the banter between those two is freaking hilarious at times. I mean, I'd love to give away some of the jokes, but I'm not going to. But it's really freaking funny.
Well, you've seen Deadpool, right?
I have seen Deadpool.
So are we talking like Deadpool level like comedy, or like because Eddie Brock? So Eddie Brock in the comic books, like the Eddie Brock character, not Venom. Eddie Brock has some dark humor. Like he is a smart aleck and like knows he's a smart aleck type thing. He's a jock. He's a he's that type of character where he says things and you laugh at it, and it's like the mean, cruel, like it's almost like Mean Girl funny. Like, is it that kind of humor, or are we like
Eddie Brock is not that way in the movie. You don't get
okay.
the sense that he was a jock, and you really don't get a sense that he was a smartass.
Okay.
You get a sense that he's not afraid to ask the tough questions.
Okay.
Whether it gets him arrested, causes him to lose his job, whatever, He just wants to do the right thing. Which,
Okay.
if it means him getting in the face of a billionaire, he's going to do it.
Right.
Um, the humor is from Venom.
Okay.
Most of the time. Is it as funny as Deadpool? No.
Okay.
I'd say it's the first Iron Man or the first Avengers type humor.
Oh, okay. Okay. That's legit.
Yeah, maybe a little bit funnier than the first Avengers, because like I said, the first half of the movie, there's really not any humor in it. And it's kind of dark and it's kind of slow moving, but then it just kicks ass after that. And
Nice.
The trailer showed you some things that, as trailers do, that are kind of taken out of order to make it scene seem one way,
Yeah.
and it doesn't happen in the movie. And they're like, "Dang, I was hoping it was going to be that way." Beyond that, I just really enjoyed the movie. The villain, I appreciated the villain because he didn't know he was a villain.
Okay.
And you know, I don't think bad guys get into this world thinking, I'm just going to be a bad guy. That's just the way it is. They honestly believe what they're doing is right. He believes what he's doing is saving the world.
Okay.
So
Mm-hmm.
he's the bad guy who thinks he's the good guy. Kind
That's
of,
fair.
sort of.
Yeah, I always like those bad guys better. The ones that have like a plausible like plan.
Yeah.
So
So he, the villain was very good. Like I said, he thought he was the good guy. He was probably what you would think a rich guy would be, and that was, I'm not getting my way, so I'm going to punish the people who are in my way. So he does have that level evil about him. But the overall evil, the the reason we need to save the world evil,
mm-hmm.
he didn't think was evil. He thought it was the right thing to do. So there's that. I guess he's kind of an Elon Musk type of guy because he owns the spaceship that goes up and brings back the
Right.
symbiotes. So
Nice.
yeah,
Okay.
he was good. Michelle Williams was tolerable as the girlfriend. I don't think her and Tom Hardy really had any chemistry, to be honest. And
Gotcha.
luckily, we didn't have to put up with that very long. Um, she was fine otherwise. Her new boyfriend, I thought he was good. Saw he was in the TV show Veep with what is her name? Who played Elaine Bennis on Seinfeld? She plays the vice president of the United States. He's like one of her assistants. He's funny in that. You kind of transfer that into the role he's playing in Venom, and I think it may color it a little bit for me because he really wasn't funny in this, but still I think of him as a funny person.
Gotcha.
But so that worked. There was more than one symbiote, however you say it, which made for the final battle being kind of cool.
Cool.
The final battle was also filmed very weird. That times it's like I kind of likened it to watching pro wrestling where not a lot's going on, but the camera is zooming in and out and shaking and everything, so it really makes it look like chaos. It was kind of that way. Or a big fight's going on and it's zoomed in really tight and you can't tell what's going on. They kind of filmed it like that. But the idea behind the boss fight at the end was pretty cool. I'm not going to give that away either.
Cool.
It's the reason the billionaire is the bad guy without knowing he was the bad guy. Is because of this other alien symbiote. So without giving a bunch away, I'd say just go see it. It's the last half of this movie is a serious payoff. And it's funny where it needs to be funny. It's serious where it needs to be serious. And to tie it together with the stuff you're going to talk about at the end of this,
Mm-hmm.
stay for the credit scenes. There's two. One has to do with Venom. The second one is a very extended look into Spider-Man into the Spiderverse.
Ooh.
So I know you're going to talk about that tonight. So hang
Yeah.
around for that. It's basically they took a scene out of the movie and just showed it to you,
Oh, cool.
which was cool. And on top of all that, one of the trailers before the movie, Aquaman. So
of course. Of
there
course.
you go. There's your segues. Take them and run.
There you go. Well, before we get into those trailers, I want to ask you. So, when you're watching Venom, when you're watching the Venom movie, did it feel closer to like a Sony's Spider-Man, or did it feel closer to like Marvel's Black Panther type? Like, as far as like the way the story was told, because that was something that the critics had really kind of harped on, is that this movie felt like we had gone back to Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man storytelling and movie, like the way the movie was put together, as opposed to where we have gotten to after that with all of these other Marvel movies. And
Well, I'm going to start this off by saying I did not like the Tobey Maguire Spider-Mans. I didn't like any of them.
well, that's fair.
As far as the way the story is told, I could buy that. I could
Yeah.
buy that it feels a little bit like that. The big difference is it's slightly darker, and Tom Hardy is amazing.
Yeah.
And then when Venom and Tom Hardy are sharing screen time, it's magic.
Gotcha.
I'd say if the movie would have been about the first Spider-Man movie, if it would have been about what was the villain? Holy cow. William Dafoe.
Oh, Green Goblin.
Green Goblin. If the first Spider-Man movie would have been about Green Goblin, that's how Venom feels.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I felt the whole Tobey Maguire, Kirsten Dunst thing was
That, yeah.
nauseating.
No. Yeah. and I get that. Yeah, and I think that's something that that's what the critics were trying to hit at with a lot of their complaints, or at least in some of the reviews that I had read, or listened to, was that this movie felt like it was like they wrote the movie back, in the late 90s, early 2000s, and then just like didn't film it or didn't do anything with it, and then all of a sudden they recorded it all, filmed it all now, but you know didn't take advantage of the way the way superhero movies are now told, which is a different way than what they were back then. I mean, it's kind of hard to say, it's hard to believe that in 18 years we've changed that much in the way we're telling stories, but we really have, and Marvel's behind a lot of that. And with Venom being a Marvel property, even though this is a Sony movie, I'm kind of surprised that they didn't take advantage of some of the leverage that they could have.
Yeah, it did not feel like an MCU movie whatsoever.
Gotcha.
It did feel more like the Sony Spider-Man movie. It did. I just think it was better than that. Like they took lessons learned from the crap that they put out and made some adjustments.
It was way better than Spider-Man 3, where he was where the symbiote was in that movie, and it was awful, and he's dancing on tables. So
yeah, that doesn't happen. Venom is he could be scary if he needed to be in this movie. He is very what's the word I'm looking for? Not self-aware. He's very protective of itself.
Mm-hmm.
But he's free with the word "we." You know.
Yeah.
We are Venom, that kind of thing. So he recognizes, or it recognizes, the relationship between him and his host. I will give one thing away. He hates the word parasite, and that's a pretty funny joke throughout the movie. So,
Yeah,
um,
yeah, I could see that.
yeah. So, um, if you read critics and they were saying it's too much like the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, I'd say take that with a grain of salt. Go see it.
Okay,
Judge for yourself. I'd say the first half of it probably. The bad stuff that happens is probably like Uncle Ben dying.
gotcha.
Um, felt forced, felt unnecessary. Kind of did in this too. But once things start taking place where this is now the Venom movie, kicks ass. It totally
Cool,
does. Yeah.
cool. Well, I'll have to. So, one last question for you: should this movie Should they have just let it go and go to an R rating instead of trying to keep it at PG-13? Do you think this
Mm.
movie would have been better if they would have opened the doors and let it go R rated?
I'm always going to answer that question with a yes. Um, I think when you constrain a movie, you can feel it.
Yeah. Well, and
If
that's
you're
kind of,
trying to,
but that's kind of the thing. If you constrain it, did you feel like this movie like was constrained?
I feel like, okay, so say you're at a family gathering and you talk like I do, but everybody in the room doesn't like to hear the F word, so you don't say it.
Right.
That's how this movie felt,
Okay. Okay.
as far as
Yeah.
dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
Because there were plenty of times where an F bomb would have been appropriate,
Right.
even expected,
Yeah.
but they couldn't use it.
Gotcha. And that's
And I could tell, as a person who loves the F word, I could tell when it needed to be thrown in there and it just wasn't there.
right. And that was something else that I had read too, was that they could have and maybe should have just bit the bullet, done the Deadpool treatment to it, let it go to an R rating and soak up the profits from it, because it would have changed the dynamic of the movie enough. It would have just opened the movie up to give you so much more options. And honestly, my opinion, it's Venom, the type of character that Venom is in the comic books, and I love Venom. Venom is an awesome character, and I love one of my favorite Spider-Man stories is when Spider-Man is has this symbiote and is the black suit Spider-Man. I love those stories partly because of what that parasite does to its host, how it changes the way that person thinks and the way it acts and the way it goes to any extremes necessary to protect itself and the host, because it knows it can't survive without the host. So it's, I think that's really cool, and it can, um, with an R rating, it would just allow you to go to that extreme just a little bit more, press that idea that it's any means necessary, not just, you know, you know,
Yeah, and I'd say you notice it dialogue wise. The thing that it could have done with an R rating, that I'm glad it not, is it was not gory at all.
sure,
And this could be.
yeah,
Well,
yeah,
I don't know if he was in the comic books, but you're talking about a thing that eats people. It could have been super gory,
yeah.
and they,
No,
of
it's
course, because of that PG-13, they didn't go that way, which I appreciate.
yeah, yeah. No, and I get that, and I've always had the argument that sometimes gore. I mean, even in Deadpool, the gore that's in Deadpool isn't necessary 90% of the time. They do it because they do it for comic relief. They do it
Yeah.
because it's funny, and because that's what you expect out of Deadpool, you can still get that same sort of violence. You can get a violence level that is R-rated without the gore, necessarily.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, very
Yeah.
cool. Very cool. I want to check this out. I actually didn't realize it came out this weekend, um, or last week or whatever it was. I didn't realize that it came out. So I'm gonna have to try to check that out.
Yeah, it did 80 million in the opening weekend, which is
Nice. That's pretty
far
good.
exceeded expectations.
Sure, sure. Very good. Very good. Go check out Venom. Support it in the box office. Help Sony make more movies that are good.
Yeah, I think
Or
a Venom 2 would be great.
yeah, because I mean, eventually Sony's gonna be, all those rights are gonna go back to Marvel when Disney buys everything. So, um, yeah, yeah, it'd be cool. It'd be very cool. So the couple of trailers that I watched, like you mentioned too, let's start with Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I think this looks like a really cool movie. I like the idea and the concept behind it. Um, that is a really good comic series, the Spider-Verse series. I thought it was really well done. I believe it was written by Dan Slott. I think wrote that one. I don't think it was a Brian Michael Bendis. I believe it was Dan Slott. And it was a really good series. I like this idea that the multiverse idea, and I like the fact that they kind of approach this from the Spider-Man side. I'm really curious to see what all they can do and what all they add in, how much, um, how far down the rabbit hole they go. Because that's the other thing. When you go into this multiverse thing, you can chase this rabbit hole as far as you want. So, and I like the idea that this movie's animated. It's not live action. Marvel's kind of going to the animated well here, and which they have not really done before. They've tried sometimes, but they've never really turned out well. Um, so have you seen this trailer, the new one that came out?
Yeah, like I said at the end of the credit
Well, I
scene, I
guess
saw
yeah.
the extended, and then there is a trailer before Venom that is the Spider Verse
Oh,
trailer.
okay, right. So that's
Um,
probably the same
yeah,
trailer that got released.
it gives you a pretty good view into what they're thinking as far as the multi universe angle of Spider Man. Um, so far, they show you what is it? Miles Morales is the
Mm-hmm.
kid,
Yep.
and then there's Peter Parker as an adult,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's Spider Gwen. I can't remember if they showed us any other
Yeah,
Spider Mans or not.
those are the three big ones. In the comic books, the one that's really cool is there's Spider Ham, which is a spider pig.
Oh wait, he's in there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think he makes an appearance in the trailer
Yep,
if I
he's in
remember
there.
right too. Um, but then there's another one that I really like, which is Silk, which is another female Spider-Man, and I believe she is, if I remember right, I believe she is from a universe where Peter Parker is cloned into a female. So it's the female cloned version of Peter Parker, and she's, a clone. She has been kind of trained and not experiencing youth like a normal child would, and so it kind of gives her a different dynamic as a character. Really good in the comics. I really enjoyed the Silk comics and some of the stories that came out of that. I really liked her in the Spider-Verse comics. So I kind of hope that she will make an appearance in the Spider-Verse. But like I said, if this movie does well, they can just keep going and going and going and do spin-offs after spin-offs because the options are endless.
Well,
There.
according to IMDb, you have Gwen Stacy, Spider Man Noir,
Okay.
Peter Parker Spider Man. Okay, the Kingpin's in it, Spider Ham, Penny Parker.
Okay, which I think is the daughter of Peter Parker and Mary Jane,
Okay.
I
And
believe.
then of course there's Miles Morales.
Which he is also awesome. I love him,
Yeah.
and I hope that I hope, and that's the other thing is each one of these Spider-Men in the comic books had a different. They're not the same. They don't have the same set of powers. They all can do things similar, but like Miles Morales, yeah, he can. I believe he still has to use the web shooters, Peter Parker's web shooters, because he doesn't like create his own webs. But he has the ability to kind of um, do like a stinging touch to where he can go like um, not necessarily like with a punch, but just kind of come up behind somebody and like jolt them and knock them out type thing. He
Oh.
he can also Miles Morales in the comic books actually can go camouflage and basically almost go invisible, kind of blend into the environment type thing, like like some spiders can do. Um, so it's really kind of cool the way they can bring in all the difference. It's not just the same stereotypical tropes for Spider-Man with just a different character that's them. There's actually different parts of them, different abilities and different things that they can focus on and make them special and individual in their own way. So I think this could be really cool. I'm really excited for it. So
I think it's going to be really cool, but hitting the IMDb page, I'm going to change gears on you real quick.
yeah,
Do you know who Cletus Cassidy is?
yes, that is Carnage.
That's Carnage. Okay, I was meant was made myself a note to ask you this and I forgot.
Yes,
Um, he's played by Woody Harrelson and he's in the after credit scene.
for Venom.
So Venom 2, if they do it,
Yeah,
we're gonna have chaos
I saw
or
that in
whatever you
the
called him.
Carnage.
Carnage.
And
Sorry.
the thing with Cletus, which is awesome that his name is Cletus. Um, the thing about him is he is psychotic. He is a sociopath. He is a serial killer, and this symbiote attaches him attaches to him, and now you have a serial killer psychopath with incredible strength, regenerative abilities, and just can do whatever he wants, and it nobody can really stop him. So he just wreaks havoc and chaos, and that's why he's Carnage. Um, so I think that would be awesome, and I was really surprised when I was seeing the things for the Venom movie that he wasn't one of the main that he wasn't the bad guy, because I kind of expected him to be. But I thought it was great when I heard that he was that Woody Harrelson played Cletus in the post credit scene. So I got my
Yeah,
fingers crossed for that
it's
one.
yeah, it you get introduced to him and you're like, ooh, he's gonna be a bad guy. But since I don't know anything about the comic book, I was like, I'm gonna have to ask because it
Yep.
looks badass. But you don't see anything other than him being him.
Right. Right. But yeah, he is a not good person. Venom goes back and forth in the comic books from being a bad guy to being a good guy. He's a good guy, I think I can't say currently, I haven't read anything current in a while, but um they kind of turned him more as a good guy. But Venom was originally the main bad guy for Spider-Man because Eddie Brock felt like, well, and I don't know if it's like this in the movie. We can kind of go back to this a little bit. Like in the comic books, Eddie Brock was another photographer for the um, for the newspaper with Peter Parker, and Peter Parker ended up getting the job. Eddie Brock ended up getting fired, and so he kind of hated Peter Parker. And when the symbiote attached himself to Eddie Brock, it fed off of that anger to Peter Parker, and the symbiote knew Peter Parker was Spider-Man because the symbiote had bonded with Peter Parker, and the symbiote's like it's coherent. It has thoughts, it has feelings, it has understanding. It is capable of thinking. It just can't survive on its own.
Right.
So it fed the ideas that it fed into Eddie Brock's anger for Peter Parker, and that's what led Venom to being the bad guy for Spider-Man. And so that was the dynamic in the comic books when I started reading comic books. That was the way that worked. And then that slowly changed over the years that everybody liked Venom because he was such a cool character that they ended up making him a good guy, because you can't have bad guys that people like, apparently. So
I guess. I don't know.
but yeah, so Spider-Man, lots of good Spider-Man stuff. So one last thing, this new Aquaman trailer.
Oh yeah.
So, and this is the thing, guys. This is the thing. I hate DC. I hate DC so freaking much for this trailer. I hate them. And here's my reason.
Why?
Here's my reason why. This trailer looks so damn good. I like they do this to me every freaking time. They make a trailer for a movie, and I go, you know what? That trailer looks so good. They have got to get this movie right this time. They've got to do it right. It's going to be good. It's going to be fun. And then you go watch the movie and you go, God damn, why couldn't they just left it with the trailer? Because the trailer was good. This movie was crap. And Wonder Woman, I think, has been the only DC movie that I've come out of it going, wow, that movie was better than the trailer. And they've got me again watching this new Aquaman trailer going, wow, I love what they've done with Momoa and Aquaman. Like he's dim-witted and funny, but also underlyingly cunning. You know, you could like the trailer felt like it laid Aquaman out as a whole thing. Is he's this guy that knows that he's supposed to do great things, doesn't really want to do it, and so he's going to play the dumbass and just goof off and try to pawn, like a slacker almost, He comes off as a slacker, like, I don't really want to deal with this, but, you know, I thought it seemed great, and I love Momoa as Aquaman. I thought it was awesome.
I think he brings a level of cool to Aquaman that Aquaman needed.
Yeah.
I also get a feeling from the trailer and the timing that DC thinks they really have something here. And watching the trailer, the world that they've created, I'm going to have to agree with them. Until I see it and proven otherwise, I think this is going to be really good.
Yeah. Yeah. I really hope that they've learned something from Wonder Woman and the way they did Wonder Woman, that Aquaman is going to, I don't want it to feel like Wonder Woman. It doesn't have to be the same movie as Wonder Woman with the same idea and the same premise, with just different characters put in and out, which DC tends to do and is very frustrating. But I hope they've learned enough on how to tell a story and how to do the cinematography and how to get the story out in front of people, that means that they've turned a corner. Maybe. Fingers
I hope
crossed.
so, because this doesn't look over the top dark.
No.
I think is what's been plaguing the Superman and the Justice League movie. They just went too dark.
Mm-hmm.
Did it with Superman as well. I feel like they did learn their lesson, because at least the trailer doesn't look that dark. Some bad things happen, but I don't think it's going to go depressingly dark.
You can't have a heroic tale if bad things don't happen. I mean, that's the whole idea of the heroic story, is a tragedy has to happen to hero. He has to overcome said tragedy, and become greater for it, and become the hero. Like, that's the heroic tale. So yeah,
But you can do that. You can do that without depressing your audience, though.
Right, right, yeah, and you can do it without like making the whole thing that stops all the tragedy being somebody's mother's name. That would be nice too.
Yeah.
But anyway, Aquaman looks really cool. Jason Momoa looks awesome.
Yeah.
I yeah, I and I liked at the very end that they actually had him standing there in the fish scale like outfit that Aquaman in. I'm hoping that that is like more some cheesy thing and they kind of make it a little less like that, but it still looked pretty cool. So I'll take it. At least it wasn't like bright orange like the cartoon from the Super Friends. That's the thing that really scares me the most is like I'm afraid that they're gonna take things from Super Friends, and if they do, I hope that it's comic relief and they do it out of tongue in cheek fun. But you
Yeah.
know,
Well, I think they, like you said, I think they did a good job with the costume. They've got a lot to overcome,
yeah,
thanks to the Big Bang Theory.
right. Well, and Aquaman doesn't do himself justice anyway. I mean, he's like,
Yeah.
just go watch Super Friends. If you want to know anything about Aquaman and how cheesy that guy can be, and how cheesy he has been written in the past, both in comic books and in cartoons, go watch Super Friends from the late '80s, early '90s. It's it's bad. So, but yeah, I really am kind of excited for it, and I think my wife actually wants to go see it just so she can see Jason Momoa without a shirt on.
Yeah. Welcome to my world.
Yeah, I know. I'm pretty sure I've already been replaced if he were to ever show up at the house. So,
Yeah.
Jason
Oh, yeah.
Momoa, if you
But,
hear
if you
this,
turn the tables and say, hey, I want to see this movie because said female character is in it, be no way in hell you get to go.
right? Yeah,
Yeah.
I know what you
Yeah.
mean. I know what you
I
mean.
love this double standard shit.
It's good to be married. Good to be married. All right, guys. So that's what we've got for this week's episode. Let us know what you think. Have you seen Venom? Do you got a thought, a comment, an idea? Did you hate it? Do you agree with the critics or do you agree with Kip? Let us know. Email us. Let us know what's going on. You can also check out our blog at geekvice.blogspot.com. You can also follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/geekvice. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel right from the Facebook page. Easiest way to do it. Wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. You can follow us on Twitter. I'm at Geekvice, that man over there. He's at Kip Killigan. And of course, as always, you can reach us by email at geekvice@gmail.com. Thanks everyone for listening to our ramblings, and we will see you next time.
Later.
This podcast is part of the Podcast Arcade Network.
Done. Oh, stop recording.